Hello, everyone. Welcome to tip trick number 2 for our Cybersecurity Awareness Month series. So today's topic is what exactly constitutes a good password. Now, if you've been to any website and done anything with passwords, you know that every single website seems to have a different understanding of what a good password is. And let's kind of talk about a little bit about where that complexity lies. Back in the day when people were trying to hack into systems and guess what passwords were, they would use something called a brute force algorithm, which means it's going to use every combination of characters to guess what that password is in order to get in. Now, there's two ways you make this more complex. The first way is that for every character in a password, you allow more characters. So let's just say that a lowercase a to z is allowed. It only gives you 26 different options. And let's just say you had a two character password. That's only 26 times 26. That's it. That's how many options you have. But let's say now you take that same 2-digit password, which hopefully you never say, and that's increased now up to 150 characters. So now you get 150 characters times 150 characters. And if you remember from stats, as the length of the password grows, it's a exponential curve up what the possibilities are. So if we're starting with a high number, then it just gets insanely high very quickly. Now, this is all based off of stuff that just isn't done anymore for multiple reasons. And the first reason being is that our systems are actually better than that. They're more complex. The systems that we care about are really going to look at these things and go, I see what you're doing. I'm just going to disconnect you. You're not going to be able to log in anymore, whatever. The systems pretty much handle this stuff. So we're kind of basing these complexity rules off of something that's dated. To be kind, they're dated. So what exactly is the best password that you can use? Well, the best password would be the maximum amount of complexity that you could do. Is technically the best password. It's the most hack-proof password, if you will. The problem is that unless you're using a password manager, you really don't want to be typing all those characters in all the time. If you set a 100-digit password with all these crazy characters, what are the chances you're going to get it right on the first try? Even if you're a supreme typist, these are not normal sequences of typing. So probably chances are pretty good that you're not going to get in. So while it's the best technical password, it's not really a good practical password. So what constitutes a good practical password? Well, we kind of have to reverse that and flip it on its ear and say what constitutes a bad password. So let's start with all of the data provided by all of the breaches that have happened over the last 5 years or so. There is a common password database that has been put together. Basically just took all of the passwords, data mined them, and then figured out what the most common passwords are. And of course, passwords showed up: password 1234, password 456, 4567, let me in, all of those. And then you get the fancy ones like password spelled PA $$W0RD, because people were getting creative. But enough people got creative where it's a common password. So you really need to avoid using anything that would be common. That includes like movie titles, movie sayings, regular sayings, any of that. If it's common to anyone, or if you shoot that off and anyone knows what you're talking about, don't use it. It's not a good phrase. Or it's not a good password, rather, using phrases or anything common like that. Even scripture. Just don't, because it's probably more common than you think. The second thing you want to stay away from is using anything that's personal. So that's your kids' names, spouse names, date of births on anything, parts of your telephone, just pets' names. Just don't do that. This information can be, if you're ever targeted for attack, this information will show up in a hacker's portfolio almost immediately. Because this information is readily available on the regular web, never mind what people can get on the dark web. So not a good strategy to use. So what does that leave? Well, there's plenty of things that you can do, especially if you're using a password manager, and we're going to cover that later in the series. you can use those 8-digit crazy passwords, especially if you're using two-factor authentication. You can go crazy and use an 8-digit. If you're not, it's probably say a 10 or a 12-digit is better suited, and it's probably where most security people sit right about now. But if you're if you have to memorize something, what do you do? Like the password that gets you into your password manager, what do you do for that? Like, how do you make it? And here's the deal. I've worked out a really simple trick, but you could probably work out your own thing that works for you. But if I take 3 or 4 words that aren't normally together and I misspell one of the words intentionally, and it's not a common misspelling, it comes out with some pretty good passwords that are memorable. I don't have a lot of them because there aren't a lot of passwords that aren't in my password management already, but the ones that I do have to remember, the ones that are core, I've made memorable in this fashion almost always. And let me give you some statistics, because I put these against a brute force attack simulation, which gives us some numbers. So the password that I came up with was gnarly driftwood rising. So 3 words just put together, no spacing. Gnarly, just that, and that's the word I misspelled horrendously on purpose. Gnarly just put in, would take a brute force attack algorithm 18 seconds to figure that one out. Not a good password in and of itself, right? But now I add gnarly driftwood to it, it goes up to 3,118 millennia. That's, millennia. So it's such a huge number. We couldn't use years because I don't know how to pronounce that many. So we're just going to use millennia. And then you add gnarly driftwood rising, the full thing, and a brute force attack just said infinite. It couldn't even calculate what the result would be. Too big of a number for it to handle. So I put this also through something called a dictionary attack, which sounds a lot like it sounds. It takes a lot of common phrases and words from the dictionary and tries to do an attack in that format. So it's not running through combinations of every possible character. It's running through combinations of various words. And it came up with a 0. Doesn't mean that all of them would come up with a 0, but because it came up with a 0, I did change gnarly back into what I think its proper spelling would be. And it still came up with a 0. So maybe gnarly's just not used enough to figure it out. Or maybe it's just a great combination of 3 words. But this is a really good example of what a good password is. It's not guessable. It has nothing to do with you personally. And it's complex enough where, as you see, even gnarly driftwood, 3,118 millennia, even putting gnarly driftwood into a dictionary attack doesn't show up. So it's a good password. So I'm hoping that helps. And if you have any questions, as always, shoot them over to us. We're pretty responsive on the social media side. And let us know. And let us know what your thoughts are, too. I'd love to hear some comments on this, especially as we move into this age of heightened cybersecurity awareness. And hopefully we'll catch you on the next tip or trick. Until then, have a good one.